What's up? Welcome to the Confluence.VC podcast. This podcast is meant to give you a personal glimpse into the next era of investors and operators. This week we had on Jared Fuller with BuiltFirst. BuiltFirst helps communities spin up vendor marketplaces to help community members make better software decisions. We're one of the 200 plus communities that they've already started working with. You can use our perk board, which is linked below, and they already have created $30 million in software savings. Jared runs partnerships, and he's in charge of managing the different relationships within vendors, partners, and purchasers. In this talk, we cover using ecosystems to your advantage, modern partnerships 101, and how to make sure your portfolio CEOs are making the right hires.
Well, everyone, welcome to Confluence.VC. Today we have a person who's really, really close to us, where we literally put our money where our mouth is with this person, Jared from BuiltFirst. He's a good friend, great builder, knows the VC space well, and also runs a really, really great podcast, which you'll get into. Jared, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're building, and we can dive into some cool material.
Yeah. Welcome from the studio, hopping on a different podcast. So I've been recording for the past couple of years, Partner Up. So Partner Up, the partnerships podcast. It's the #1 podcast in partnerships. And then also just launched Partner Hacker. So partnerhacker.com, which is the world's first daily partner newsletter. So been living the world of partnerships for a long time. Built some industry defining alliances with companies like PandaDoc and HubSpot, with Drift and Marketo, Drift and Adobe, and have scaled ecosystems from no partnerships to thousands and dozens of millions in revenue. So I live, breathe, eat, sleep, partner world, and then BuiltFirst is kind of bringing all that stuff together. It's a marketplace platform, so where anyone can have a marketplace to promote their partners out to their community. So all things Partnerland today on the Confluence pod.
Cool, man. Well, the way that we first got introduced was hearing about BuiltFirst and me saying you guys are super, super dope. How about you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Well, and then maybe actually back up. How did you get to where you are? Because I think your story's dope.
Yeah, totally. So BuiltFirst, I'll start with our mission because I think it's very important. It's to build a world where every business can succeed together. And I can go down the philosophy, economics rabbit hole as to why that's so important. But if you think about stability of systems and like what's ecologically stable, the more diverse a system, the more stable it is. And for the past couple decades, go-to-market leaders, founders, entrepreneurs in SaaS, and specifically in B2B SaaS, have been a little bit, punch drunk on cheap customer acquisition, cheap marketing costs, and an acceleration of marketing and sales tech. And we're in the middle of a big transformation in go-to-market right now. And that's what BuiltFirst is built for. So if you look at the decade of the 2000s, that was the decade of sales transformation. So as underpinned by what? Salesforce, right? And, in the 90s, the way sellers sold was, kind of lick the finger, put it in the air, be like, all right, that deal's coming in. And it really became a science in the 2000s. And then in the 2010s, that was the decade of marketing transformation. And now we're in the 2020s. Where are we at now? Well, now it's a decade of ecosystems, of partner ecosystems. Why? Well, customer acquisition costs. Since I launched my first marketing agency in 2010, you're talking a 50x increase in paid price of acquisition. Conversion rates have a 10x decrease. Lifetime values are going down. The best go-to-market leaders I know that are CMOs of branding companies, CROs of branding companies, it's not working, the standard sales and marketing playbook. So what BuiltFirst does, it allows you to have a marketplace where you can list in all of your partners' marketplaces, give offers to your kind of core audience, and also give value back to your customers. So, the thesis that we have is that that's been validated by, we have hundreds of VCs and communities that are using BuiltFirst as their marketplace. And then we have over 1,500 vendors, AWS, Salesforce, Stripe, Airtable, Notion, you name a, great B2B SaaS company that helps businesses. They're listing on the BuiltFirst platform and have hundreds of listings across, hundreds of marketplaces. So we're like that front end So if you're, your company, you say, hey, we have a partner program, we partner with all these people. How does the customer get that value? So if they're using BuiltFirst, they can come in and see all of the best deals that are available and most relevant to them. We've been growing really fast. It barely touched marketing efforts, and it's just been focused on helping our partners and our vendors get the most out of BuiltFirst and saving founders money as well. So in the process.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Actually, it's more than beautiful. And the speed, like I tell you, the speed at which they've done this is incredible. Like we didn't meet that long ago, and where it is now versus where it was then is really impressive. So
yeah,
congrats.
it's been crazy growth. Like this is like a new infrastructure layer for go to market. And what I mean by that, like why is that relevant to that speed and growth, is that here's something I've been saying kind of on the side, is that data was the new oil until we polluted the trust of the market. Now, trust is the new data. So what's that mean? Well, if you're evaluating some software purchase or anything like that, you used to like start at Google and like maybe you get retargeted by some ads, something like that. But the reality is today, if you're going to go out and purchase something, what do? You go to your peers, the people you trust, because there's too many options for everything. There's 175,000 technology companies today. By the end of the decade, Forrester estimates that there will be over 1 million. So does that mean that more emails, more ads, more phone calls is going to make your company better? No. What's going to make your company better is how you partner with where people already are, with the people they already trust. So we believe that partner ecosystems is really going to be the new face of go-to-market. And that's not, our myopic belief. The market's validating that. That's why we're growing so fast. We're that first trust layer where you can actually connect networks of marketplaces to have a much better customer experience.
Wow, I wish there was like a way for me to be able to show people like a demo of this in real time. We need to make a video podcast, which is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so you still didn't give me your background.
Yeah. So I've been a founder a couple of times, and then went back into the trenches to really make sure I knew how to scale a company before doing it, myself again. I had a marketing agency that did okay, a SaaS company that failed back in 2014. Raised money from Foundry Group and some good investors, and unfortunately it wasn't a success. So I went, hey, before I go do this again, I really want to make sure I know how to scale. So I was the first kind of sales leader and partner leader at PandaDoc, scaled that from 0 to handful of customers to 10,000 plus. And then for the past 3.5 years was at Drift, which was a great brand name in B2B. Got to work closely with the fantastic team there, and I built out all of their global partner programs. Industry defining partnership with Marketo, which was great. Launched a whole new category, conversational ABM. So I built the conversational marketing blueprint, which was the foundation that taught 20,000 marketers how to do conversational marketing using chat. And throughout that process, had a bunch of problems and pain with really trying to show Drift's big community, like our partnerships, like who was our preferred vendors and like who were our preferred partners and who were our service providers. And it was always a convoluted mess on trying to you'd have to go talk to everyone to tell them about like exactly what partner does what, which ones we recommend. That doesn't scale very well in hyper growth. BuiltFirst team guys, partners and I, we partnered up end of last year to really take this to the next level and kind of scratch my own itch, right? All of my peers and listeners of the podcast that I have this same problem of being able to showcase their partners and who their preferred partners are, and then be able to do the same for them on other people's websites and properties and apps. So we've kind of built this ecosystem infrastructure together, and now we're really taking off in 2022. Like I said, it's thousands and thousands of buyers, hundreds of partners, thousands of vendors. So this new layer of trust where people can, go to their community, be like, hey, what's your best, who do you recommend for accounting? Who do you recommend for this? Who do you recommend for that? They have a deal and a discount and can redeem right through BuiltFirst. without having to go through that whole like rigmarole of search and find and book a demo. And here's a crazy stat. Over 50% of people that go to view a listing and click into it on BuiltFirst actually redeem the transaction. That's like 10x more than someone that goes through a pricing page, requests pricing, and goes into a sales process. So, like I said, I'm not just spouting or like drinking our own Kool-Aid. That's the market's telling us that. It's not our own, not our own. We scratched our own itch, and the market is saying, yeah, this is the way that it should be. It's like Paul Graham said, the best entrepreneurs have an earned secret, or earned pain. So it was, developed with that in mind, because we were running the roles of the people that were, that are buying our product.
Feel it 100p. And I'm sure through your marketing podcast and your community, you're learning more and more every single day. So look, man,
Totally.
Every person in this world who works in the partnerships or marketing division was trying to lower their CAC or get their LTV to CAC ratio correct. They would die to be the person to be like, hey, in my company that was scaling from this to this, I brought in this huge alliance or partnership. Can you talk to us about like what it takes to win an industry defining alliance as a startup?
Yeah, so this is like the sumo advantage, the David and Goliath story, if you will. I mean, you're inherently at a disadvantage as a startup because you don't own the audience. So I think a lot of companies, they have this lens they look through of, how do I go reach the people that I want? And they do things from the go-to market perspective. And I think that's inverse, especially in today's day and age. Go-to market assumes everything about me going to the market. There's another way to do it, which is to build from the market to you. So I'll give you a perfect example. And I've done this 4 times in a row where we've gone from 0 partnership to #1 alliance as a startup with a, public market cap company. Instead of thinking about how you build marketing campaigns or features and then push them out to the world, you go to where the ecosystem lives. If you're building for a certain segment or persona, what technologies are they already using? What service providers are they already using? The customers you want. And you go build those relationships with them, not directly with the customer, and you solve a pain point for them. So for example, PandaDoc and HubSpot CRM. HubSpot CRM's biggest issue was churn, right? So they had this giant freemium funnel because they were the first CRM that went like totally free, right? But activation was a big problem, right? So what do I find out? I go in, I start to build that relationship, and I find out that whenever someone moves a deal in HubSpot CRM from like the pipeline to closed won, that's their #1 activation metric. Well, guess what PandaDoc did? PandaDoc, you sign the deal, right? That's the document. So if we could inject that into the process and make it easier for people to close deals, I'm going to inherently become a much more important partner to HubSpot than anyone else. So we hacked a Chrome extension. So I'm talking about hacky startup stuff here too. This is not like some crazy playbook. We hacked a Chrome extension for HubSpot CRM, launched it because HubSpot didn't even have APIs for CRM back then, by the way.
Wow.
And we showed that usage and that activation difference between someone that used our Chrome extension with HubSpot versus someone that just went through the funnel. And they were 7 times more likely to pay HubSpot if they used our solution. So whenever I'm negotiating an alliance deal, keep in mind this was the first one HubSpot had ever done, ever. I had some weight. I could talk about the metrics. And it went so far as to HubSpot had 40,000 people a month signing up for HubSpot CRM. That's a big top of funnel. It's way bigger than any other early stage startups, top of funnel. Every single one of those people that signed up for HubSpot CRM got a dedicated email saying connect PandaDoc in your integrations because it behooved HubSpot to. So instead of me going to market and trying to convince these users, they had made a choice on CRM, and their trusted partner was then putting our product into their workflow. So build backwards, right? Invert the problem. Go to where your customers are and drive value for those partners, and have those partners push you into their customer base. So that's just one example.
Yes, it's what every investor wants. Everyone wants B2B2C or B2B2B.
Yeah.
And Yeah, that's beautifully articulated.
It's a secret weapon right now. The following that we've generated with the podcast and the stuff that we're doing is growing really fast. So for the next couple years, it's an extreme competitive advantage. And just like every other process, fast forward 2, 3, 4 years, everyone's going to be doing this. So I'd say the early adopters, to the victors go the spoils, so to speak. The people that are doing this right now and learning it and doing it the right way. I mean, we're not talking like a profitable marketing campaign. We're talking about industry shifting stuff. I mean, what we did with PandaDoc and HubSpot was so big that HubSpot made an investment in PandaDoc. It was the first ever investment by HubSpot Ventures. They actually spun it up to invest in us. So like, that's how big these things can be. And then Drift and Marketo, same thing. I mean, you're talking, not profitable marketing campaigns, but enterprise value of millions and sometimes dozens of millions of dollars for a company that's doing just about that much in revenue.
Gorgeous. And you all are quite literally enabling that with BuiltFirst.
Yeah. I mean, we see it happen every day. I mean, we just launched big marketplace last week, where they covered it in Business Insider. I mean, there was a bunch of fanfare and founders were loving it. People were signing up left and right. And it's like, it feels like a no-brainer once you're on the inside and you're actually doing it right. But the challenge with this stuff is that there's no, how many books on marketing and sales are there? Blog posts. There's
Definite.
thousands and thousands. There's over 300,000 in Amazon, to be precise. Books on sales and marketing, over 300,000. You know how many there are on partnerships? 137. And the ones on partnerships are 2 decades old. So it really is a competitive advantage right now to really have a strong ecosystem out the gate.
That is gorgeous. Like I'm always stunned on you, man. It's like I'm constantly thinking about, like, from my investor self and my operator self, like, how do I get that CAC down or get scale quickly? Right? Like, that's the defining moment for anyone. It's like, how do you become rocket ship? And when I think about myself as an investor, I'm like, man, like in an investment committee, it's like, they got that one partnership, they got Visa, they got this, they got that. And it's like, that is the defining moment. And it's not thought about enough.
No, and it's so normal in our consumer lives too. That's what's crazy. Like, we see it every day. The last multiple home purchases that I've had through Credit Karma. So Credit Karma saw that, like, whatever signal in their app, and then they put an offer in front of me with better and like their home stuff, and then I become a customer there. Ticketmaster on Facebook or on Instagram or TikTok, right? If I'm like liking, following some artist, that artist shows up, boom, I buy a ticket. Like, partnerships are everywhere. 70% of world trade, 70% is indirect. I mean, that's just a fact. And we've just been so addicted to cheap customer acquisition costs in startup land that we've like somehow, like, that hasn't been part of the ethos of good venture or good startup kind of like principles and focus of the business. But now we're seeing it. So I mean, we saw investors too that were finally seeing that as well and saw that as a competitive advantage for their portfolios. And then, investing in us as well.
Got you. But you got to give us the quick crash course. If you're a startup starting out, how do you go about doing this? Outside of hopping on BuiltFirst.
Yeah. So here's the first thing I would say. Because I've done a lot for a bunch of different venture firms, early stage and late stage, where I've consulted and helped out their first time partnerships leader. The first thing I would say is, don't build in a silo. And what I mean by that is, don't assume that this is a quick trick or easy thing to do, and that you're going to appoint some account executive or CSM that's been talking to customers and say, like, hey, now Tyler's been crushing it, on the CS side. Like, we need to get a partnerships person. We believe what Jared says. So Tyler, you're responsible for partnerships. That's what most startups do, is they just grab someone randomly and they're like, you're now in charge of partnerships, without any rigor or like roadmap or learnings or education. So I'd say the first thing to do is that there's a burgeoning I would say, kind of like mind share that's happening. And you got to get in that conversation. You got to get into that community where these learnings are happening real time and fast. So that's where you get the selfless or selfish plug. Check out partnerhacker.com. Would highly recommend people start to pay attention to these things because we're releasing stuff like the ecosystem maturity model. Like there's 5 phases of ecosystem growth. Go find someone in your portfolio or in your portcos that can really articulate to you what it means to have, a phase 1 ecosystem versus phase 5. The only reason why you can do that as a sales leader is that you know what sales productivity looks like for 1 rep versus like 20. But for partnerships, if you don't have that roadmap, you're guessing, you're making it all up. And I'll close that section with Steve Jobs quote, which is innovate, don't invent. As a startup, if you're having to invent stuff that other people have already figured out, that's a problem, right? Like you want to invent something when it's like a true transformation, like a 10x increase. But if this is for something that other companies have figured out, go be a part of the community. Make sure that the CEOs, or the VPs, or the whatever that's going to be responsible for this, they're participating in the very early innings of the decade of the ecosystem. So don't build by yourself, and go be a part of the community. I mean, I have one. Cloud Software Association is another one. I'm on the board of directors of. It's a nonprofit, and then Partnerships Leaders is another one that's a paid membership base. So there's 3 big resources. Go join. It's well worth it. Even free. So CSA is free. So I'm not even trying to sell something. Just don't try to build it by yourself.
Dude, please send me links to these things. I'll include it in the newsletter when we push this out.
For sure.
Okay. So you spoke on ecosystems.
Yep.
Ecosystems as a competitive advantage. How do you look at that?
I mean, it's like, I'll put it, let's use standard way a lot of startups think about going to getting a customer versus an ecosystem approach. Let's say you have the world's best marketer, brand, creative, design, landing page, CTA, and then you have the world's best seller. So like an SDR that's just a slayer on the phone, right? Pick up the phone and can get anyone to like get through those cold openers and like start a conversation. And then you have on the other side, an ecosystem. So let's say I'm selling against, Salesforce, right? So it's one buyer. So both go at the same time. Well, if I'm spinning up that landing page, that ad, that creative, and I'm that seller calling into that account, it does not matter what I say. It does not matter what my messaging was. If the consultant that is already doing business for that customer is a Salesforce partner and recommends Salesforce, they're going to take that recommendation over anything that I could do direct. Why? Well, the average American receives between, this is not an exaggeration, this is in Deloitte's 2021 State of Marketing report. The average American receives between 400 and 10,000 advertisements per day. So the ego that it takes to think that we're going to break through, even though it's the best ad, the best creative, the best, I don't care what it is. The thing that I'm going to remember out of those is the one where someone that I already trusted told me to do something. So if we were to just take that example of like mediocre ecosystem, like consultant has a relationship with the customer versus best in the world marketing and sales, and this one wins every time. Wow. And then, I mean, it speaks for itself. Go look at every single public, market cap company that's a category leader. HubSpot, over 50% ecosystem driven. Salesforce, over 50% ecosystem driven. Microsoft Software, 80% ecosystem driven. ServiceNow, Shopify, all of that.
Yeah, everyone that hits scale is about ecosystem.
Yeah, totally.
There needs to be a new role of head of ecosystem.
Yeah.
Actually, matter of fact, you should start getting head of partnerships folks to like change their titles to head of ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, there's some ecosystem chiefs that are starting to pop up as new titles. So I mean, gosh, in the past 3 weeks, I think Cisco replaced their channel chief with an ecosystem chief. Microsoft replaced their channel chief with an ecosystem chief. Yeah, I mean, it's like I think they're calling them ecosystem chiefs. I mean, I don't know. It's a bit all over the place. Partnerships, ecosystems. The point is that you're thinking about your organization as part of a wider market phenomena, not just your organization, because the market always wins. The market always wins.
Agreed. 5 things to look for as a CEO when you're thinking about getting the right marketing or partnerships lead.
I think the first thing has got to, well, it's kind of different today. Like it's changing in real time. So what I would say is find someone that's an evangelist, first off, meaning like they know your customer, they know your space. You have to have some trust right then, right there. Because if they're trying to become an expert and be a partner to everyone, you're going to see through that. I mean, I know business development and partnerships people that I meet and talk to in 15, 20 minutes, whether or not they actually do know what they're doing. So I'd say find an evangelist, find someone that knows your space well. Make sure that you have a commitment to that learning path as well. You can't just go hire someone for this and expect them to run everything. Why? Because partnerships and ecosystems inherently touches marketing, sales, CS, product. You're asking someone to build a company inside of your own company and then go build that in other people's companies that aren't on your payroll. Like, think about that for a second. Like, that's a hard thing. Like, that's induction meta stuff that's real. It is the hardest job to do that is not the CEO, I promise. To do it well, it is the hardest job in all of SaaS because you have to be good at all of them. And then you have to go do it at a cost and at an effect that is much greater than your own go-to-market, right? I would also say pick someone entrepreneurial, right? Like they have to have that kind of grit and determination and vision. So the siloed people that are particularly good at product or sales or marketing, like, get a, Jack or Jill of all trades, so to speak. And don't just focus on, one particular component. And someone that's a curious learner. You have to be able to learn very, very quickly. So yeah, those would be mine. I think that was 5. Close enough.
Yeah, more than close enough.
For the crash course.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to put together a JD for me at some point, bro. But okay. How about you stop giving us stuff and we take a moment to give you stuff? Anything that the Confluence investor community should know about you or can be helpful to you with?
No, I would say this is one of the biggest levers that you have to help your portfolios. I think over the next several years, this is where a lot of market makers and industry winners are going to have this strategy that dominate over just traditional go-to-market. So check us out at BuiltFirst.com. And then if you just want the knowledge, partnerhacker.com. So that way you can kind of get the PhD. So Partner Hacker Daily. Get that little mini PhD in partnerships delivered to your inbox on the daily. Yeah. And anyone that is looking for some help as it relates to partnerships and ecosystems, you can come into BuiltFirst, and I'm happy to hop on the phone with anyone and help advise on your own platform and community as well. Because I know a lot of VCs and we have a lot of customers that are VCs as well, that are really indexing hard on having a great platform and ecosystem for their their portco and their founders. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion in partnerships, you always give, and then I'll get. So if you need help, come check us out, and you can find me on LinkedIn too, or Twitter, whatever. Just Jared Fuller. Happy to have any convos, help how I can.
You're not going to ask some of them for money? Okay, look, let's not.
Yeah, I mean that. Come on, there's private placement stuff like that. So,
any type of investor that you're interested in hearing from, like assume like you're not going to respond to most, but if there was a type of profile or a type of help that a firm could provide, what would be helpful to you?
I think in this particular case, it's someone that really believes in the vision and has seen marketing and sales like kind of are having a hard moment right now. I think the thing that makes it so interesting for us is that this is not something that I've stumbled into. I've been doing partnerships and business development and ecosystems for like over 10 years. So the moment in time and like where we find ourselves is not like, oh, come teach us how to do X, Y, or Z. It's really a partner that just believes in and can help with, I'd say, talent, and belief and conviction, and to, you know, help make the megaphone wider. So I would say beyond that, we have some good, partners in right now. We haven't announced our latest round publicly yet. We'll be doing that in a couple months. So we're considering opening a slightly larger round, just because we've had so much traction on the backside of that. But yeah, I'll keep it open. I'm always open to having conversations.
Yeah, have your people reach out to his people or something like that. Cool, man. Any questions for me? Welcome to ask anything in the world before we hop into our rapid fire.
I don't know, Tyler, man. Just what I would love to get your perspective on is not necessarily right now today, but like I want to talk to you in like a couple months. And I would love to hear how you've been thinking about this, because if you think about what you're doing, like, I mean, the reality is you've built a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that community is an ecosystem, and like how you've gone to market and how y'all have built your business is very partnerships and community centric. Like all of it is. So it's kind of like, it's almost like natural to the thing that you're doing right now. I'd love to hear how those worlds kind of start to collide in a couple months, and maybe we'll have you on the Partner Up podcast to talk about building a business strictly based on partnerships and community. Because I feel like that's a new thing. That's a new way to build a business is, community first, right?
For sure. Yeah, man. I think we were nothing without our first podcast guest and venture capital users of our databases, then pushing it out to their community. We literally have done no marketing.
Right.
All we do is dope stuff with people like you, co-share, borrow trust, provide everyone else with distro into our ecosystem, and then it just repeats itself. It's exactly the playbook you're describing. And I don't think that there's a better way in terms of like LTV to CAC ratio. I genuinely don't. And yeah, that also goes across my companies. So
right.
Yeah, man.
Totally, man.
All right. Rapid fire. What belief, habit, or change in your life throughout the last year has made the largest impact?
So a quick one. I would just say adherence to mental models. So just first principles, like I've always thought that way, but like really, really, so not saying 10,000 things, one time, saying 10 things 1,000 times. So I'm a very big broken record to my team, colleagues, family, and friends. Say the same 10 things probably 1,000 times now.
Oh man, you're gonna be real rich. You got the Ray Dalio mindset. Either you just read that book, or it's natural to you, or probably both, which is gorgeous.
Okay. I've read Principles a long, whenever he wrote it. I mean, so it's been a minute.
Yeah, he has like 3 of them out now.
Yeah, now he has like the New World Order. That's the newest one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What recommendation do you hear regularly that you think is very or fairly bad advice?
Oh gosh. There's too much. I mean, this is almost like the same as the previous answer, is that I think there's too much information. Like we have information asymmetry in terms of like what we can consume, what we can contextualize. So I would say like, everything has an answer, like Google this, Google that. Like we're no longer trying to like get information. We're trying to filter information. So I would say, I don't know. Bad advice is like, figure it out. Like you got to go find the people that have done the thing that you want to do. So you should have mentors and role models. I feel like there's just too much information out there. So
everyone, I'm giving him like poetry snaps. You can't see me, but yes. That's beautiful. Okay. Let's see. One piece of advice that you want to give to people. cut out all the noise.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing if you want to be successful in life is to embrace and reduce the cycles between feedback loops. And that will rock your world if you actually pay attention to it, because it applies to everything: relationships, business, colleagues, whatever. Meaning you have to remove your ego. You have to be willing to admit fault and failure, seek feedback quickly, test things fast, make mistakes, and remove the self-protection that is ego. Ego is not about being braggadocious or having confidence. That is not ego at all. Ego is self-protection. It's that you do things around you, around your business, around your colleagues, your partners, whatever, to protect your own opinion. That's really what ego is. So I think the biggest piece of advice I could get would be to, I wrote this down on a piece of paper in my wallet many, many years ago. I think 2014. I could probably even tell you the day, May 13th. I think May 13th, 2014. This says, my ego is worthless. My outcomes are valuable.
Oh,
So there, there's my best advice.
I get that tattoo.
Yeah.
I might put like ego, like outcome greater than ego.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. 100%. Your ego ain't worth nothing. Period. Full stop. Only the outcomes are. And that's the best piece of advice that I could give anyone. And I feel like that's the best spot. Like that's what a high note.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get there. I guess tell me one person, or you have two, because our relationship is strong, that you want to see on this podcast, and we'll go get them, or you can introduce us. This, like is for us by us. So anyone you want to hear more about, or that you think deserves a spotlight in front of this community, let us know.
I think some good people have seen this story before. So, like an Avanish Sahai, he's on the board of HubSpot, and has seen 3 ecosystems get developed, but also does some investing. Mark Roberge is a partner at Stage 2 Capital, but he was the chief revenue officer at HubSpot. So like some people like that have seen ecosystems play a competitive advantage in growing, market defining businesses, but then are also playing, the VC side. I think those are some great people to have and share their perspective on, in terms of like this being a moment, because I feel like it is. So yeah, those are a couple names that stand out.
Cool. Well, if you want to make an intro or like ask them if that makes sense, again, this is all for us by us. We value your opinion more than anyone else's.
Of course.
Cool, brother. Well, I'd like to say thank you so much for kicking it with us. I'm excited to get this out.
Of course. Appreciate you as well, Tyler. So if anyone wants to invest in their community in terms of the VC world, BuiltFirst.com. And then if you just want some knowledge on partnerships, it's 100% free, partnerhacker.com. So we'll see you around the...
feel free to drop your Twitter, Instagram, all that. Let's get some emails, like investments@builtfirst.com or something. Cool, man.
All right, Tyler. Well, we'll see you next time, and maybe the other way around. We'll be hosting you. So.
Sure. All right, brother. Peace.
Huge thanks again to Jared for coming on this week. I hope that each of you picked up something valuable from this talk. If you're looking in touch with Jared, we've linked his social info in the description below. And you can also find BuiltFirst, the website, which is also linked below. For next steps, if each of you have not submitted your info to become a member yet, you can do that through our website at www.Confluence.VC. And also, if you want to become a subscriber to the newsletter, we offer a ton of free resources in there each and every week, meant to help you become better at your individual roles. You can subscribe there at www.confluence.substack.com. Hope that helps. Hope to hear from y'all soon.